Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Maseches CHULLIN Daf Samach Aleph. We begin on Samach Amud Beis on the very last line. Back to the Mishnah with the kosher signs of the kosher birds. Says the Mishnah, Simani Ha'oif, the kosher signs by birds, Lo Nemru, were not really stated in the Torah. Says the Gemara, really? V'loi? They're not indicated in the Torah? Listen to this brisa. V'atanya, we have a brisa. So amongst the non-kosher bird list, we have actually a total of 24 non-kosher birds, amongst which we have the nesher, the eagle. V'atanya nesher. We turn to the next page. What's unique about the nesher? Of all the other non-kosher birds that have some signs of kosher, the nesher has none. So we had the 4 signs in the Mishnah, right? And the nesher has none of those kosher signs. So what's unique about the nesher? Ma nesher, miyuchad. What's unique about the nesher? She'ein loi. He has none of these 4 kosher signs. She'ein loi esbei yisera. He doesn't have that extra sort of like finger coming out of the back of his leg. V'zefek, nor does he have the zefek as part of his digestive system. That's the crop. Number 3, vein kurkavana niklaf, the gizzard, the stomach, is not comprised of peeling layers, so you can't peel the inner layer out of the outer layer. And number 4, v'deris, he grabs his prey with his hands, right? V'deris v'eichel. And since he has none of those kosher signs, tamei, he's considered non-kosher. Af kol kiyetze by tummy, likewise. Any other bird which has similar characteristics, missing all these kosher signs, he's tummy. On the other side of the spectrum, you have toirin. The Torah says that a toir, a certain type of bird, is kosher for a korban. It's a kosher bird. So what's unique about the toirin? They are the other extreme of the spectrum. They have all 4 kosher signs. Toirin sheyesh lehen ezba yisera, the extra finger, v'zefek on the crop, the kurkvan niklaf. The kurkvan gets peeled, ve'in dersen v'eichel. They're not doires. And therefore they are toirin. Af kol kiyetze ben toirin, likewise. Any other bird which has these signs is toir. So these kosher signs are learned from the psukim, from the examples, from the birds. The Torah itself presents to us. So what does the Mishnah mean? That the simanim of the kosher signs by birds are not listed in the Torah. Amar Abaye. It just means to say that it wasn't explicitly mentioned in the psukim. Amar Abaye lo nemru pirusha midivrei Torah. They were not really identified in the actual psukim of the Torah. Rather, ella midivrei seifrim, by way of the oral Torah, Torah sheba'al peh. The Chachamim who surmised, based on the examples mentioned in the psukim, the fact that the Torah lists the nesher amongst the 24 non-kosher birds. On the other hand, the Torah are listed amongst the kosher tells us something about what makes a bird kosher. And now we know these 4 simanim are kosher signs. Now, you might ask, does a bird have to have all 4 kosher signs to be tahor? No. Tani Rabbi Chia, even 1 kosher sign is enough to make him kosher. Tani Rabbi Chia, even if he only has 1 siman. Certainly if he has 2 or 3. Why? How do you know? Maybe all 4 are required. Once he has even a single kosher sign, he's dissimilar to the nesher. And we learn, nesher, only the nesher, the less leikal, has no kosher signs. Who you shouldn't be eating him. The absence of any kosher sign makes him tamei. Ha ikol de islay cha teichel. But if you have a bird that has even 1 kosher sign, you can eat him. So the nesher is off the table because he has no kosher signs. Otherwise, even 1 kosher sign is enough. How do you know? Maybe go the other way. V'lei left me turn, learn from the Torah, who have all 4 kosher signs, and that's when they're kosher. Ma Torah, just as the Torah, Dikakul Arbo have all four signs. Kosher, Av Hachinami. Likewise over here in this bird, Dikakul Arbo. Until you have all four, you're not kosher. Says the Gemara, that can't be so. Why? If it were so, that all four signs are required, Shar Oifes to me in the Kasar Rahman Alamli. So why does the Torah bother to give that comprehensive list of 24 non-kosher birds? I mean, none of them have all four signs. So in any case, they're not kosher. Right? Oh, apparently that's not correct. You don't need all four signs to be kosher. Even 1, 2, or 3 would be enough. Hence, the Torah has to go out of its way and list for us all those birds which have some kosher signs to tell you, you know what? These are exceptions to the rule. They're not kosher despite exhibiting some kosher signs. How many signs do they have, by the way? So the Nesher has none, as we just concluded. We have the Oirev, the raven, who has 2, and then we have the Peres and the Ozniah, who have 1 each. Says the Gemara, V'neilf Menayu. Okay, but now that we have that list, perhaps we should learn from there. Mahasim, just like over there, many of those birds have 3 kosher signs, plus 3 v'le'echlim, we don't eat them. Afkal, likewise, other birds, plus that have 3 v'le'nech, we shouldn't eat them. Kosh kentrei, certainly, if it only has 2 signs, v'chadar or 1. Says the Gemara, that cannot be so. Imkain, because if it were so, that the Torah intended that we learn from this list. For instance, the bird that have 3 signs are not kosher. Likewise, any other bird that has 3 signs is not kosher. Imkain, if that's so, that 3 is not sufficient. I have a question. We mentioned that amongst the list we have Oirev, which has 2 kosher signs. Imkain Oirev the Kasar Rahman Alamli. So why bother even mentioning the Oirev? Only has 2 kosher signs. Once you've established and concluded that 3 isn't enough, of course 2 isn't enough. That's just superfluous. Imkain Oirev the Kasar Rahman Alamli. Why even mention the Oirev to be non-kosher because of 2 signs? Once you've established that 3 signs cannot be eaten, of course, if it only has 2. The very fact that the Torah mentions the Oirev on the list tells you they can't really learn from these exceptions, from these items on the list. These are exceptions to the rule, but typically 1, 2, or 3 simanim is enough. Return Talmud Beis. Okay, fine. So we've established that you can't learn out of the birds that have 3 simanim. Those are exceptions. Those are tamei despite having 3 simanim. Okay, but regularly 3 simanim is okay. But why can't we learn from the Oirev, which has 2 simanim and is still tamei? Likewise, another bird that has merely 2 simanim is tamei. Ma'asim, just like by the Oirev, Trei Loi 2 is no good. Afkal Trei, likewise elsewhere, Trei Loi 2 is not good. Imkain, again with the same sort of rationale. Why then does the Torah have to list Imkain Peres V'Ozniah, those 2 additional birds that only have 1 Simon Tahara? The Kasar Rahman, which is stated in the Torah Lamali, why did the Torah have to say it? That a bird with just 1 simon is no good. Once we know even a bird with 2 simanim is not sufficient, of course a bird with just 1. Once you established that in general a bird with 2 can't be eaten, of course, if it only has 1, which is less. The very fact that Torah points out and highlights, don't eat the Peres V'Ozniah, tells you that typically 2 simanim is okay. Unless you're an Oirev, right? Which is an exception. One more last question. Okay, so I have this clear. I confirm 3 simanim is typically okay unless you're one of these exceptions. 2 is okay unless you're the Oirev. But perhaps 1 is not enough. We should learn from these 2 birds that have 1 siman each are not kosher. Perhaps 1 is never enough. Says the Gemara, okay, if that were so, that this is serving as a catalyst, as a precedent, as a model, that 1 siman in a bird is not enough. Okay, Nesher, the cause of Rahman al-Amli. So why does the Torah bother listing the Nesher on that list? Nesher has no siman of Tahara. None is certainly worse than 1. Nesher, the cause of Rahman al-Amli, Ashta the Islay Chad Le'achlin. Once you established, allegedly, that a bird with 1 siman cannot be eaten, Ever, the Leslie Klal Boy, it goes without saying, obviously, if it has no simanim. So why does the Torah have to bother mentioning the Nesher, which has no siman Torah? Allah, the lesson is like this. Nesher, only the Nesher, which has no kosher signs, unless they klal, who, yeah, him, you can't eat the leiseichel. Oh, the islechad, but otherwise, if a bird has even just one siman tahara, that's sufficient, achol, you can eat it. Okay, so stop for a second. So the limud arrangement works like this. We have the Teirim, which are considered Torah, and they have all four kosher signs. So perhaps you need all four simanim to be Torah. No, that cannot be so, because why then does the Torah have to give you that list of 24 birds, some of which have 3 simanim, some 2, some 1, some none? Obviously they're no good because they're not like the Teirim, which have 4. That teaches us that even partial is okay, even part 1, 2, 3 simanim is okay. Now, maybe I'll learn, just like the list of 3. The birds that have 3 are no good, likewise 3 is never good. If 3 is no good ever, not just in these cases, why does the Torah have to give us the Erev, which only has 2, and say that it's not kosher? Obviously, if 3 is not enough, 2 is not. Apparently, in general, unless you're the Erev, 2 is enough. Okay, but maybe we can learn from the Erev, 2 is not enough. If that's the case, why Peres Vosnia? Why mention those that only have 1? If 2 is not enough, of course 1 is not enough. Okay, so now we know 2 is enough, unless you're the Erev. But maybe 1 is not enough, just like the Peres Vosnia. The answer is, because if it were so, why does the Torah have to mention the Nesher to be a non-kosher bird? Obviously it has nothing. So in totality, we learn from this whole list arrangement that you don't have to conform to the Torah model. You don't have to have all 4 siman tahara, any siman tahara. As long as you're not like the Nesher. Nesher has nothing. You have 1, 2, 3, certainly 4, you're okay. Then one more question here. It says the Gemara Vela time of the Kas Rahman and Nesher. So at the end of the day, it's based on the mentioning of the Nesher, which tells us that only 0 is Tamei, but any siman tahara is okay. Halav otherwise. If not for the mentioning of the Nesher, it would generate confusion. Would leave room for misunderstanding. Havamina, I would say, Leila from Peres Vosnia. I should learn from the Peres Vosnia that only have 1 siman tahara, and you see they're tamei, so 1 siman is not enough. That's what I would think, right? Why would I even think to learn from them? Peres Vosnia shnei ksuvin. We know that when the Torah mentions the same idea twice, there's like sort of a duplicate pasuk on the same idea. What does it tell you? It has a limiting effect. Why does the Torah have to teach you the same concept in 2 places? Just say it once and learn everything else from there. Apparently, the point is no. It's limited to these 2 cases and only these 2 cases. Likewise, listing the Peres, who's a bird that only has 1 siman tumah, on this tamei list. And likewise, turning around the mentioning Dazni as well in the same context. 1 siman tumah to be non-kosher. Isn't that shnei ksuvin aban ke'echad? 2 psukim that coincide. Shnei ksuvin aban ke'echad, malam, they're not meant to be expanded and learned further. So I couldn't even learn from them. Says the Gemara, no, they're not really duplicates. Gemara, we have a tradition. It's true, the Peres has 1 siman and the Azni has another siman, but they're dissimilar. Right? Out of the 4 siman tahara, the Peres has 1, let's say it's called A, and the Azni has the other one, C. They're not the same siman tumah, so they're not really considered coinciding. Gemara, we have a tradition, the Ika Bahai, the sign that's prevalent in this one, Leka Bahai is not in the other one, and vice versa. Udika Bahai, Leka Bahai. Says the Gemara, hold it. Inevitably, there's going to be some duplicate, some multiplicity. Why? Michti. Esrim varbo evis meim habu. We have a grand total of 24 non-kosher birds on our list. Now, it's impossible that there will be no overlap. It's impossible to say that one of the simanim that are found in these 2 birds here, that have 1 each, the Peres has 1, Azni has 1. It's impossible that these simanim, Leka Bahani, will not be found amongst the other ones. And if that's the case, once again, we have duplication. And duplication indicates limitation. You can't learn it to elsewhere. Vablu shnei ksuvin, right? Shnei ksuvin b'nei echad. If the same siman is mentioned here and there, that's shnei ksuvim habayin ke'echad. You can't learn it to elsewhere. Answer is like this. It's true for the most part, but actually there's one siman of these four that is unique, that is only found once amongst these birds. We have a Kabbalah, we have a tradition. Esher barba ifes tmeim havu. Okay, we have a total of 24 birds that are tame. Barba simonim, amongst which we find the 4 simonim in any, in some sort of combination. How? In what way? So 3 of these simonim, let's call them A, B, C, and D. 3 of them are found throughout all the birds. How? What way? 20 of the 24 have 3 simonim each. Okay, so A, B, and C are found throughout all 20. Let's remember, 24 non-kosher birds is comprised of a couple of categories. 20 of them have 3 simonim each. The Erev has just 2. Paras Oznia has 1 each. And the Nesher has none. So 20 out of 24 exhibit 3 simonim each, A, B, and C. The Erev has 2, with Treba Erev. The Erev has 2 of these 3, let's say A and B. What's left? Chad be'peres, chad be'oznia. Peres has 1, Oznia has 1. But they're not overlapping. The Isei Baha, Lesa Baha, because the single siman that's by the Peres is not the one that's found by the Oznia. The Oznia has the 4th one. Or vice versa. The point is that there is one siman, the elusive siman, the unique siman, that is only found once amongst all these birds. Whether it's in the Peres, the Oznia, but it's only a single phenomenon. So once it's not duplicated, you can learn from there. So perhaps I would think, we should learn other birds from it. Just like this bird here, whether it's the Peres that has the unique one of Oznia, either way, whichever one it is, it teaches us that a single siman does not make it kosher. And likewise, elsewhere, you'll find a bird with a single siman won't be kosher. That's what necessitated the nesher. That's why the Torah was prompted to say nesher. Kos rachman or nesher, to tell you. Nesher de lesle klal, only the nesher which has no simon etara, that's off the table. But if you'll have a bird with 1 simon, even that's okay. Echad, you can eat it. So now for the obvious question, so what's the point of mentioning Teirin? That they're kosher, seemingly because they have all 4 simanim, if that's not even necessary. As long as you're not like the nesher, you're okay. As long as you have 1 siman, what's the point of mentioning Teirim and highlighting their kosher status? It's not to tell you that you can eat it, the carbon, to tell you that it's kosher for a carbon. Only very specific species are kosher for a carbon. Teirim, v'yayna, that's the point of the pasuk. But in terms of kashrus and inability, that's based on the nesher. Nesher has no siman tahara, it's off limits. A bird with even 1, certainly 2 or 3 siman tahara is okay, provided it's not listed among those 24 oifais to me. Okay, so at the end of the day, we know there are 4 kosher signs. It can't be a doiris va'eichel, etzba yisera, zefeh, kurkavan, and niklav. Ultimately, we learn from the nesher, which has none of those simanim, that even a bird had just 1 is okay, provided it's not one of those 24, some which have 3, 2, or 1, and there are exceptions to the rule in the kosher. Okay, all the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rab.